This vidcast has been made possible by Chris Snell Media and Sound Production. For bookings for voiceover work, on-camera, motivational speaking, and DJing at your next event, email info@chrissnell.co.za. To find out more about me, visit my website, chrissnell.co.za. Enjoy today's program. What an honor, and first off, you come highly recommended by a mutual friend, Bo Payne. So with that said, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chris.
It's a
It's a
pleasure.
pleasure to be here.
So tell me, if I was a tourist visiting, you're from Indiana, am I right?
Correct.
Now, I have unabated love for the South because I see myself as a country guy here in South Africa. You know, I grew up part in the suburbs and then mostly in the rural parts where I live now, specifically in the Mountain Valley. It's just unbelievable, and it does unbelievable things for my mental health. What would be places of interest to visit in the state of Indiana? Take me a bit to school.
Um, there's a lot of stuff in the southern part of the state. There's a nice park with, a lot of hiking and different things you can do that you would enjoy. Indiana's pretty flat, and there's a lot of cornfields here. But my wife and I, we own some land, so it's nice. We're close to the city, but we're out in the country as well, so we get a little bit of both. But yeah, we usually travel away from here to hit the beach or some real mountains, But we enjoy living here.
I'm sure.
We both lived in other places, and this is home. So
I'm sure. I'm sure. You know, the nomad always finds a place where home speaks to the heart, doesn't it?
that's right. Yep.
Now, Brent, you and I have mutual history. We're both recovering addicts. Every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, as I always like to say. What exactly would it entail to be that you became embroiled in addiction in the first place?
So I had an older brother. He's 7 years older than me, and um, he was into smoking some weed and stuff like that, and he just happened to give it to me. I mean, to make a long story short, we were on a vacation, and my dad didn't want to fly home. He got scared. So my mom kind of sent me and my sister on the plane, and my little sister and her drove back. Well, my brother picked us up from the airport, and I went and stayed with him. And the very first night, I was 13. Um, I drank 151, a whole pint. I smoked weed. I snorted rush back then. I mean, I kind of did it all, and I loved it all. And then I blacked out, puked everywhere, and was freaked out, but it didn't take long for me to do it again. I
Mm,
liked the rush, I loved the buzz of it.
sure. Well, it
So
isn't that normally the tale of any addict in the beginning, and hear me in the context why I say it. You know, you begin to take just for the rush of euphoria that you get after, like with alcohol, which is the most common one, equal a gateway drug, that euphoric feeling after that first three beers that you have, or that first intake of marijuana. You know, you long for that euphoria because
right.
it's that escape from reality. But after a
Yeah.
while, it could be 1 year, 2 years, hell, it could be even be 6 months, sooner than that. Ultimately, it spirals
Yeah.
out of control. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah. Um, so I mean, at 13, it wasn't like I had access all the time, but I began to seek it out, and um, I began to spend more time with him, when I could. And I mean, I was in sports, and I was an honor student at one point. My family, I come from a good family. They weren't into that, and I just, I don't know. It was like a time bomb, and I loved it. Hated it, basically.
Mm,
And yeah, it didn't take too long before I was smoking weed every chance I could,
mm.
and then drinking as much as possible. And hell, I took my first hit of acid when I was 14, a year later. I was tripping.
Holy
Yeah,
cow. 14, you took your
right.
first hit of acid? Jeez.
Yeah, I did. I went to a Motley Crue concert, and man, we got.
They happen to be my favorite band.
Yeah.
I was a rock jock for
Oh,
many years,
nice.
and I played all
I
of
got
their
you.
well. I played most of their tame stuff, Kickstart, Kickstart My Heart, and then
Yeah,
have you ever listened to that '90s self-released album? This was when Vince Neil left Motley Crue and got replaced for a time by John Corabi.
I don't know. I might have. I'm not sure if
Okay, all right.
I didn't
Oh,
follow them like that. I
I
just
see.
went to their concert and partied.
Okay,
You
so
know.
was that one concert?
Well, that was kind of the beginning of um, the whole concert deal. Like
Okay,
I
I'm
wrote
with
a
you. I'm with you.
concerts were nuts for me.
Sure, but that was the culture.
Um, right. Yeah. So, um, yeah, have you read Nikki Sixx's book, The
I want
Heroin
to.
Diaries? Oh
I'm
man,
looking
you
for a
you would
copy
love
of it
that.
badly, badly. I love his latest
You would
music
love it.
project. I love his latest music project called 6 a.m. A couple of years ago, this was about the time that I got sober, just after I got sober myself. 6 a.m. got a brand new lineup, and the film Snow Babies had just gotten released. And they wrote a fantastic soundtrack for it, and they were raising money for sobriety. And give it to Nikki Six. I mean, really, for a man who partied wild, I mean, Vince Neil was way, way, way worse than what Nikki was, in my humble opinion, but he owned up to it. He owned up to it.
Right.
And that
Well,
we all can say.
when you read the Heroin Diaries, Nikki was. I mean, it's crazy. Like I don't know. I don't know enough about Vince Neil, but it was cool how they wrote it because they interviewed the band, Tommy Lee, all of them, and they all gave their perspectives of watching him become a junkie, and I mean it's super interesting.
Mm,
He ended up taking methadone, going to the clinic and going that route to get off of it.
mm.
But I read that about 2 years into being clean, and
Clever move.
I'm now, yeah. So right now I'm 12 years and about 3 months, a little more than 3 months, drug and alcohol free.
I'm, I'm proud of you. Congratulations. Not a lot of
Hey,
people can boast that.
and I'm proud of you, man. I mean, it's no bullshit. It's no joke. To to completely change your life around is a truly miracle from God,
True.
and it's humbling.
Very.
The thing I've learned along the way, I've learned so much. Um, to kind of get back to the addiction part, and then maybe go into the recovery a little
Please do.
bit.
Please do.
I got I was basically hooked on everything, from so it started at 13 and I got clean at 35. That's how many years I used. Um, and it progressed. The disease progressed, and basically, I ended up doing everything except shooting up needles. That was my line. Um, but so what? I could have died anything I was doing, mixing. I was on fentanyl. I was, cutting the patches and just eating it, mixing it with Xanax, then smoking crack. I mean, whatever. I mean, it didn't matter. It was whatever would get me high. And so to come out of that, I got arrested 12 times.
Holy
So I was
cow.
one of them dumbasses that kept doing it over and over. But it was the addiction just pulling on me. And no matter how embarrassed I was or sickened by what was going on, I'd go back to it. I mean, there was nothing I could do to stop it. And I always knew the answer was to not use anything. I mean, it's a simple answer. I knew that when I was a kid.
But not so easy in practice.
Right. It's a simple answer to a death defying feat.
Preaching to the
But
converted.
so basically, I got arrested, went to my parents' house. I wrecked their car. I mean, I was living in a shithole. I had lost everything and began to fight. July 21st of 2010, and that was my formula. I had nobody really to talk to. My
Hmm.
family weren't addicts, and I'd been to AA through the courts a million times, and all I did was go there high. It was court ordered. I was never
Of
there
course.
for the right reason. And but I began to fight. I was suicidal. I was pushing death, man. When this
Hmm.
happened, I wanted to die. Probably the last 7 years I was alive. I was mixing shit on purpose, and the only thing that was keeping me alive was my mom's face every time I thought about putting a gun on my fucking head. And
Oh God. Now you
God,
touched
you
on
know what I'm
something.
saying?
Wow.
So
Fuck.
that's where I was at. And I I did a 360, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It's
went to my
funny.
parents' house.
It's funny that family can often be the catalyst. You mentioned you come from a wholesome family background. Um, my mother was. I had the exact same premise. My mother was the reason why I didn't want to blow my brains out. And we just had a casual conversation. And one day, she knew there was problems, but she kept quiet until that one
Hmm.
given day where I said, "I can't do it anymore." Mom, here it is, the whole kit and caboodle. It's funny how
Yeah,
that one person in your life who's actually um, of such importance to you that can actually contribute to you getting your fucking act together. Period.
you're right. You're right. That's heavy, man. That's some heavy stuff.
Yeah. Sobriety,
It is what
recovery
it
isn't
is,
a
man.
isn't a light topic. It's a requiem for a heavyweight,
Right.
but you have to go through it.
It
I
sure is.
think.
So, I mean, the deal, and um, I began to fight, you know. I spilled it all to them too, same thing. And they knew, but they didn't know how bad, and I gave it to them all of it. And I said, watch me. Let me stay here and watch me like I'm 5 years old. Hell, I'd been on my own since I was 19. But I'm like, I don't trust myself. So I didn't know what to do. You know, all I knew was I needed somebody to kind of like grab me and be like, you ain't going anywhere, because I was so wild and didn't give a shit about anybody, not the law, not the parents, nobody on the street. I didn't give a damn about anybody.
Mm,
Nobody could stop me from what I wanted to do.
right.
But I asked them to stop me,
Mm,
and they obliged, you know what I mean? And
absolutely.
that that was crazy, because um, about 5 days into it, I was withdrawn from a lot of stuff, and I was so sick, man, that I was ready to give up, and I was ready just to leave and say fuck it, you know. So I went out and I laid in the ground, and they have some land as well, and I laid there and I prayed for the first time in probably 20 years, you know, and I was ready to go, and I asked God to give me strength to fight, you know, and I just laid there and cried, you know, and I could feel his power like go inside of me and say, I got you, you know. And man, it's just the craziest thing. And I, like, it saved my life. Yeah,
I can see
I'm
the
here
gratitude
today
play out in your
because of
eyes.
that.
I can just see
I'm
that
here today,
gratitude.
and man, I went back in, and I didn't leave. I went back in their house, and I made a shitty TV dinner, like jail, you know, like a turkey hungry man nasty dinner. And I thought, this is the best damn turkey I've ever had. You know, I mean, it was just a moment of like, well, I beat that second, you know, and
Mm,
it empowered me just a little bit, but it saved me. And then I started praying all day long. I started, because the cravings weren't stopping. I wanted to get high still, but I knew what to do with them. Like, I just gave them to God. As soon as they hit my brain, which was all the time, I went to prayer, you know, and it was like I was beginning to put days together, you know. My 24th day of sobriety, and I went to an AA meeting, you know, and it was because I was arrested again. I just went to my trial, you know, like I got popped and it was set up, and this time I didn't let them string it out. I was clean, and I'm like, let's go face the music. Like everything I had been in the past, I was changing. Like I was scared as hell that they were going to throw me in jail. I had every reason to get high. You know, my stress level was off the chain. You know, I hate jail. I'm like a caged animal. You know, I need freedom. I need to roam. And I was ready, but I was ready to man up and be a warrior. And even though I was like a scared little boy, you know, and so that's what I did. And I was facing some other shit that I haven't even told you about, but
sure.
I didn't get high. You know, I was going through it clean, and I was withdrawing. You know, and it
Mm,
was hell. I mean, and I'd cry one minute, man, and then I'd punch something. You know, I mean, I was just a walking piece of work. You know, and shit, my
sure.
mom didn't know what to do with me. I mean, they're watching me pry outside, pacing like a madman. You know, like what the hell are we gonna do with him? You know, and here I am just fighting the beast, man. You know what I'm saying? And boom, it was happening though, and I was putting those days together, and I just started that first AA meeting. I made myself talk. You know, I'd been to AA so many times from all the arrest, and I never said a word. I said, pass. They
Mm.
come to me, pass. I ain't got shit to say to you people. That was my attitude.
I can
This
understand.
time I'm like, this time I'm like, man, I'm 24 days clean and I feel like shit, you know? Um, pass. That's all I said. I mean, because that's what I felt like. I felt terrible, but I was there and I made myself say something. But it was
Of
things
course.
like that that just started happening.
Mm. Mm.
So,
Well, you know what, Brent, speaking from experience myself, you can agree with me. Initially, men don't talk, right? Men don't
right.
talk. But,
Nope.
I've spoken to many men whom, like yourself, have faced jail time, who had to learn how to fight to survive. But it always comes to that point where eventually you have to force yourself to say something because we have to talk. We need to break this algorithm that if we talk about what it is that's been holding us back in any given form, shape, whatsoever the case may be, it's a sign of strength, it's a sign of courage. I'd like to quote from someone else who said, "There's nothing more courageous than seeing a man trying to save his own life on a daily basis." So talking isn't a sign of weakness. It's a it's a part of healing,
I
I'd like to
agree.
think. And
Hmm.
you've got 12 years recovery, solid sobriety. I'm working on 4. You know, I'm sure they must have come.
Congrats, man.
Sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
I said congratulations.
Thank you, bro. But what I was saying is there comes a time, sure, in everyone's recovery where you eventually have to say, you know what, I've noticed this and that and this and that. We need to break these chains to help other people find their freedom. Have you also had that mindset? Uh, have you had those notions yourself in your mindset going on into long-term recovery, where you feel like I have to reach out more and help break stigmas more?
Oh yeah, I began this on my 53rd day. I've been doing this the whole time. So my 53rd day, I got baptized. I was, and what I did was, um, I started writing a book and just jotting
Wonderful.
some stuff down, in the beginning, and just writing about sobriety and drugs and whatever. I was writing some poems, raps, whatever the hell you want to call it. So I get baptized and I put it on Facebook the very first time at that 53rd day. And I did it to hold myself accountable because I didn't want to be one of those guys that put the shit on there and then not stick to my word. So I did it as a tool, and then it just began something that I do have done for the all 12 years. You and I just became Facebook friends, but you can
Correct.
go back and see that's what I've done all along. And you're right, man. Prior to being clean, I didn't talk about shit. When I got clean, I began to do that. I gave my first talk at 104 days of sobriety at my parents' church. My dad asked me what I was going to say. He was scared, because of the stigma.
Sure.
He's like, "Oh, what are you going to say?" And I'm like, whatever the hell I want. I'm going to tell them the truth because that's what they need. I said, if you don't support me, then don't show up on Sunday. I mean, I was kind of a dick about it because I felt strong about being real, and
Of
I
course.
felt proud of being clean for that 3 months. And he came and they watched it and their church did a standing ovation because I was like one of the first honest people that ever got up there and blasted them, and they loved it.
You're kidding me.
No,
they was they were scared
hit,
witless that you were going to just go off and people are going to go, you sinner, you, and all of a sudden here everyone stands up and they give you a round of applause, left, right, and center.
amen. Yep.
Well, it must have also been a revelation to you that you discovered. I'm going off on a tangent here. I've said this to many
That's
people.
okay.
Think about it. You write poetry. Bo himself, he's knowledgeable in sport. Give him that. He knows about baseball teams because he was drafted by a couple of teams. All of us have got
Yeah.
talents. All of us have got talents that we just discover at one certain given moment in recovery, moving from midterm into long-term
Yes.
recovery. And what you have just mentioned with regards to standing in the church and um, giving your testimony of how you've been through the test, that must have also just awakened something in you to use your voice, to become a motivational speaker. Is that maybe something in the pipeline for you? Just going off on a tangent subtly.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I've done probably at least 30 different talks through the years. I've been to high schools, um, churches, different places. I've done a lot of one-on-ones. But so I've always paid my gift forward, and
Yeah, yeah.
um, I'm at a point though now where I am looking to become a motivational speaker to larger crowds.
Mm.
I've been a dare speaker, and I've been surrounded by cops and priests. I
No
mean,
kidding.
that talk about an awakening, you know. I mean, that was nuts. Usually they were cuffing me up, and now they're sitting by me with tears in their eyes because I'm spitting the truth. You know what I mean? And I mean, it affects so many different people, and that's why I'm 100% real,
Mm.
because there this isn't a sugarcoat game.
No,
And
none whatsoever.
for me to help, I have to tell the deep shit, and
Mm.
that's what I'm here to do. So I appreciate your desire to help as well, and to start your own podcast, and get into the minds and spread the message of recovery with people that are fighting the beast, that know a few
Mm.
things. I'm not reading this
Mm.
shit out of a book. This is real life. I mean, this
Of
is a
course.
shit I went through. So
Well, I appreciate that accolade, B. I really, really do. But I'm going to say something which I've said to many people. My recovery, the education that I got, was from you folks in the USA. Just because of this thing that we've got social media now, I started reading
yeah.
things, and what began as just a simple feature of me wanting to learn to get better started into a fact of, hey, would you like to appear on the show? Just one single interview. That was all that I just basically wanted. But the fact of the matter is, I couldn't get it here in this country because sadly we are just so backwards in thinking. If you've got a problem right now, you're an active heroin addict, for example, there's one destination and one destination alone, off to rehab, either inpatient or outpatient. Not state mandated, mind you. You've got to pay it out of your own pocket. Sorry, I don't have 30,000 Rand that I can just basically cough up for for treatment. But
Right.
there's more than one way to recover. There's more than one way, as we both know. Um,
Yep.
yes, I didn't go to rehab, but did it affect the way of me wanting to get better? No. I went to my
Right.
meetings.
Me either.
I went to NA. And because of the pandemic, as you well know, everything went virtual. So then all of a sudden we went to virtual meetings. But the fact is, eventually a need awoke in me to find out more. This is helping my recovery. And I'm using my gift, this, to just basically put a message out there that there is hope. You don't have to feel hopeless. And I mean, how many of our friends, people who were in my circle and friends that you know, who all relapsed during this last couple of years, people who went absolutely bonkers just because of the last two
My
years
best
that we.
friend died.
Shit.
So I cut everybody off. I mean, when I got clean, the people went lifelong buddies. I mean, I quit going to the poker games. I haven't been to a bar, I cut all that shit out. And the friends, I mean, I'm talking dudes I grew up with and played sports and blood brothers and all that. I kept one friend basically, but I didn't hang out with him, because he was still in the game and he would stop by randomly, and it was stressful. Like my wife, she liked him, but she's like, she knew, like what the hell. So it was weird, it was strange, but I loved him, he's my brother, and like I didn't cut him off.
Sure.
I would talk to him on the phone here and there, but he passed away. Like he's gone, and it just it was wild. So
Sure.
2020, my wife and I are powerlifting. We did some state tournaments, and we were getting ready to do another one. And we own a cleaning business, and we have assisted living facilities we clean.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we go to in the beginning of the pandemic, we're supposed to go to this meet, and basically some idiots from a different state come there and they're bragging about how they're around all these people that and making fun of COVID, you know, and it was right at the beginning of the pandemic. So we didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah.
So we chose to not participate in the meet. It was a decision that we made, and that's what we did. But I started running because our gym shut down, and I'm active. Like I need to train because
As do I.
it helped my recovery, and
And this,
right. Yes.
because this is the
Like
biggest
it.
enemy.
Yes. And so I've trained all along, well, I started running, and I ended up one day, I ran 14 miles. I was gone for 2 hours. My wife was texting me like, and she always knows we're always together, and she's like, where are you? And I couldn't stop because I thought I would never make it back. But I ran that far, and then I come up. She's like, well, after she calmed down from being mad at me, she was like, well, maybe you should run a marathon, and I had never done that. And it threw the thought, I go from being a power lifter to running like that. I thought, nah, that doesn't sound very good. Well, about 2 weeks later, I was running, and I'm like, man, I think she's right. Maybe I should. It was my 10-year sober year, and I've always challenged myself. I did a cage fight one year, an MMA fight, just different stuff. And so I decided to do that. Well, in the meantime, I decided to raise money for an addiction recovery, a new facility going up in my hometown.
Clever.
Well, because I was going through my own training, and like putting in the work, I thought, well, maybe I can raise some money. You know what I mean, for recovery, and two birds with one stone.
Of course. Giving back.
Well, you're right. And so I did. I mean, I contacted the guy in charge. He thought I wanted something from him. I'm like, no, I'm going to give you something. I'm going to raise some money for you. You know what I mean? Because most people don't do that. They don't give you anything, you
Right.
know. And but I feel like, giving back. I mean, and that was something I could do. And well, my best friend died 1 week after I announced that on Facebook that I was doing that, and so that was a whole crazy, time. But I ended up raising 5 grand for that place, which is a lot for
Wowee.
one guy, I
Very
mean, that was
much.
cool. And I ran the marathon, 4 hours and 14 minutes of pure hell, and it sucked. And but I did it, I mean, and I beat the challenge because that's what you got to do. You got to
Of
challenge
course.
yourself.
Of
You got to
course.
stay moving
Absolutely.
forward. Right now, I'm doing a 365 days in a row challenge of 30 minutes a day training. I came up with that bright idea 10 months ago, and I've done it every day since, because that's what I do. I pick
Mm.
stupid shit and then I go for it, and
Mm.
but
Mm.
hey, it keeps me striving for better, to be a better man, to be a
Very
better
much.
husband. And
Can I
that's
take
what
it
I,
a step further? It's actually a man's birthright to do that. And that's another thing that I want to address because it goes part and parcel with men not talking. I have to share with you, Brent, in the beginning of the year, I had an epiphany that we've been programmed to lie. We've been. Why are you giggling?
my wife, I'm always teasing,
Yeah.
and I'm always just making up stories, just teasing her. But she always calls me a liar because I'll be talking trash to her, And she just heard you say that, and she's laughing. I'm not really lying to her. I'm just playing with her.
No, of course. But what I
Yeah.
mean by that is, we as men today have been programmed to underperform and to cave into a lesser thought process. Whereas now, it's our birthright to more or less, not more or less, to become overachievers. Because if you look at throughout the course of history, all the great historical figures, Alexander the Great, um, too many to mention, throughout even biblical times, but I'm not counting the tyrants, please hear me, not Julius Caesar. They were overachievers, where the reach is beyond the grasp. And now more than ever, my recovery has turned to such a point where, where you mentioned with your physical activity, you've started out as a powerlifter, now as a runner. I'm experiencing it myself, where the more that I challenge myself in fitness, in mental health, I recently have qualified as a mental health and substance abuse specialist,
Awesome.
where it's tantamount to challenge yourself and go where no man has gone before, to fight that algorithm. Do you feel that yourself, especially in this walk?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I pride myself on being the hardest worker, Like you ain't gonna outwork me in the gym or at work or wherever the hell we are. You're gonna feel my presence, you know what I mean? Because I'm gonna be going balls out, period.
In everything, even in business.
Oh yeah.
And that's another
Yeah,
thing that I
yeah.
want to touch on. You were a convicted felon because you were in so many sites of the police and so on and so forth. Is
Well,
yeah,
I was not a felon. A misdemeanors was my worst.
I
So
stand
I
corrected.
never had a felony.
But you
12
had conflicts
arrests,
with the law, like what I had as well.
big time. Yes.
Now the script is flipped in the sense that now
Yeah.
you are a business owner, fighting that
Yes.
stigma, Have you had consistently had to fight the fact of now that because you were a quote unquote, I don't want to say fuck up, that is disrespectful, but you were the black sheep of
That's
the
true.
community.
Yeah.
I appreciate your
I
sense of
was a
humor.
fuck up.
But now, having gone from zero to hero with the business, that
Right.
really must give you a great swell of pride, knowing that where you once were and where you are today. I mean, you married the woman of your dreams. That must be a testament to other
Yes.
people out there. Like, fuck, I want what that guy wants, what that guy has.
Hmm. Yes. So I I do have a sense of pride with that, like, but I also keep that very humble. I don't I don't ever feel like I've arrived. You know what I mean? Like I stay hungry,
I
and
love, I love it. I love it. I was waiting for that answer.
because if you don't do that, then you're gonna, oh yeah, you're not gonna respect what you work so hard for, and that ain't gonna happen. I my sobriety and the things that I do on a daily basis, I continue to do them. I don't just get lazy and say, "Oh, I'm not doing that shit." I do it whether I want to or not. You know, because of my discipline. I mean, I've been to the pits of hell.
Mm,
And I'll never go back. But I don't think that, you know, it's not about the money or the car or this or that. It's about, my relationship with God, my wife,
mm.
being a good person. Um, that's what's good to me. I don't give a shit about the material stuff.
No, of course not.
It's my reputation,
Your
and
name. Yeah.
that's to me, like, when I die, people are gonna say that son of a bitch cared and he made a difference when I came into contact with him. They know that I made a difference in their life of some way.
Mm,
That's what I
absolutely.
like to do.
Absolutely. And I was trying
And
to imply,
sometimes,
sorry, please continue.
go ahead. No,
No, what I was
you're
just
good.
wanting, what I just wanted to say was, is the reputation. I wanted to say, I couldn't find the right expression for it. Becoming a high value man. That's what I meant. That
Yes.
reputation is what I yearn, is what I'm sure a lot of people, when they look at you today as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, as a husband, that must what they want. And sure, when I said pride, I meant humility as well, but because it's double barreled. Because it's not
Right.
about the material things, it's not about the fancy Lambo, it's not about the big house on the hill. It's about this new quality of life, and people see it through your actions.
Right.
Because here's why I say it: be people have this notion, and I'm talking about society as a whole. And I know it's a painting with a broad brush is dangerous, but you have to hear me out in this argument because it happens here. If you were an addict, that is how you will be in their minds. But them seeing it with you having to flip the script, you know, it it's kind of a hard pill to swallow, and I welcome that personally because if they can't
Me
accept that
too.
we're fighting for our own lives and for the lives of others, they're part of the problem. We're trying to alleviate the problem.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Oh, totally. So, I just ran into a guy about 3 months ago that I used to smoke weed and play poker with all the time. But I was, he was my weed dealer and blah blah blah. But I'd go to his house and I'd be trashed on pills or alcohol or whatever. And he was the one that doubted me when I got sober. And I just ran into him. And, obviously, once I got clean, I quit going to his house and all that. So I don't really ever see him. I just ran into him. but he was very respectful, and like he knows, he knows the change, and he was like, man, I'm really proud of you, and that was a good feeling. But on the other hand, I thought, you know what, that was some bullshit. You didn't believe me 11 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't full of shit then, and I'm not now. I mean, when I said it, I meant it. But I understand you have to rebuild trust. That's a big part of it.
Well, let me give you an idea. I used to be a television producer, and it was one of I was in
Wow,
between shoots,
cool.
and I was in the office, and then one of the ladies called me over from the. They used to work in the admin desk. Now, with me, you're probably the same. When you're at work, it's work only. It's a perfunctory hello, goodbye, no time for office chit chat because you've got a deadline to meet. And one of the ladies calls me over. She says, "Listen, I peered through your social media a bit, and even though you and I weren't talking, I got lost in there because you're talking about recovery left and right. Let's go and have coffee. Tell me your story." And as I began talking, this woman is bawling her eyes out because, we guys in recovery, we don't look like addicts anymore. I mean, when I was actively using, I was bloated as a blowfish, um, swollen bags underneath my eyes. My skin was completely full of skin lesions. It's almost like they can't buy into that idea. But when you start being brutally honest, and here's another thing that we'll get to as we begin to end off, is the fact that we start talking brutally honest about our experiences. And let's be realistic. You can't sugarcoat it. Of course, you're going to throw in the F words. Of course, you're going to throw in the S words. Of course, you're going to get emotional because it's an emotional experience. I'm sure there must be times in your life where you share with people, and in the midst of it, you think to yourself, wow, I've actually had a lot of weight to carry. And then it brings me to the question of faith. Again, talking about breaking social barriers. I myself believe in God. I'm baptized, and God is everything to me. Everything, left, right, and
Me
center.
too.
But you can't not talk clean. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
You have to be brutally honest, and it's not for everyone.
right.
So I don't care throwing the F words around because all I'm being is brutally honest, period. Your thoughts on that?
Me too. Well, I mean, I struggle with that too. As a matter of fact, right now I'm writing my autobiography. I'm 12,000 words into it. I've been jamming in the mornings, around all this other shit I got going on. But I said to my wife, I said, "Hey, because I'll type some stuff and then I'll read it to her, and eh, I'm in a weird position because." I'm like, should I say the F bomb here or not? I mean, what, you know what I'm saying? And it is weird. Now, I mean, because I guess, well versed, I'm 47 years old. I've been through
No
the damn
way.
wars.
You're
Yeah,
47.
I'll be 48 next month.
No, I refuse to believe that, but you look fantastic for a 47-year-old
Thank
guy.
you. um, But yeah, I never know if I know my audience. I
Hmm.
mean, if I'm in a church, I'm not gonna say the F bomb. You know what I
No, not
mean?
at all.
I did a talk a year ago at a church and I didn't say it, but it depends. One on one, yeah, I'm gonna get in your shit and tell you what's up. And either way, I'm gonna tell you what's up. Whether I cuss or not depends on the crowd. And right here,
Sure, yeah,
right
absolutely.
here and now, I mean, it's me and you and my wife. She's sitting over here listening, and whoever else watches this thing. But
Sure.
this isn't about, tiddlywinks. This is
No.
some real shit here,
Of
and
course. Yeah.
it's intense, So yeah, I mean it's a hard battle. I did a talk for some football players one day, and I was the captain of the defense. So,
I can
I
imagine.
was the middle linebacker and I was the
You've
dude
got
that would
broad
kick your
shoulders for it.
ass.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when I went to battle, I went to kill, I mean, that's who I was. And so F bombs were my friend, And I go to do a talk at a school for, few years back for the football team. And yeah, I started dropping some F bombs because them boys, they understand that. You know, I think that they know what I'm talking about. I don't know if their coach liked it or not, but frankly, I really didn't care, because I wasn't there for him. He's not an addict. I'm there for the kids sitting in the front row, looking at me like, man, this dude's full of shit until I reach into their soul and pull out the bullshit that they're on. You know what I mean? Because that's what they
Yeah.
were doing. I
Yeah.
know they were. I could see it in their face, and it was because I want to help them so bad. I wanted to kick their ass, you know what I mean? And just be like, man, don't be fucking up like this. Be done with it. Hardcore.
But that brutal honesty always pays off. Now, B, as we begin to ultimately wind down, in your 12 years, what are some of the life lessons that you've learned that you carry with you every given day that helps you just take on another day?
Number one is no matter what happens, I'm not going to use.
Mm.
That's like the simplest thing when I said it right off the bat. That's the formula I've used. Um, then other than that, like, um, just be honest, I do my best, not, be good to people, stand strong when somebody's pulling some shit, I don't put up with that, but, um, and, just do the best I can, and keep pushing myself,
Mm.
like keep working and, making a difference, no matter who's listening to me, somebody's going to listen and it's going to help them, because sometimes I'm like, I'm pulling my hair out, and I'm like, man, you can't pay attention. This isn't for me. I'm clean, This is for you, you idiot. Think about it, And it drives me nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. But I love where that passion is
So
coming from.
I don't know if that's the right answer for, your
No.
question
No, no, no,
or
no, 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 no.
whatever.
You were
But
absolutely on the ball. You were on the ball, and I can relate to so much of it. I can relate to so much of it, and it's part of that independence gene, where you've been through so much of shit. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but serial killers nowadays, in their cases where they plead insanity, they relate to the fact that they've got monoamine oxidase A, the MAOA gene. So, in other words, if you've been treated like crap all your life, then all of a sudden homicidal tendencies are going to arise. So it's almost like a fact of nature that they are going to kill. They're just fucking insane. But it's inverted
right.
MAOA with us. We're so passionate because there's love and passion in here that we want to impart.
Yeah.
That we're like, just fucking get the idea already. Don't make the same fucking mistakes that I did. But that
Right.
is just part of your integrity. That is just part of your integrity, and no one can take that away from you. And the man that I see here before me today is a man who is humble. In fact, the better word I want to use is integrity. And, you know, I'm not saying it because of the fact that I'm overseas and you are in the country that I love with all my heart. And, I've made great friends in the US, and I respect the US and all that she stands for. Even with all the drawbacks, every country has it. But, I want to learn from Brent, and I want to see where Brent is in the next 12 years. And if no one else says it, I'll say it right here and now. I'm proud of you, son. You're a legend in my eyes. I can't wait for that book. Keep at it. It's gonna be a top seller. It's gonna be a top seller. I know it.
Thank you so much, and I mean, I have a lot of respect for you, and I'm just glad we got to meet. You know, I appreciate all you're doing, and I'm proud of you too. You know,
Thanks, brother.
and I'm here, man. If you need anything.
Same here. Thank you so much for coming on, bro. You have to come back sometime.
Okay, brother. We'll see you later.
So it is here where we have to make a pit stop, but don't fret, we'll be back soon. In the meantime, tell your friends, join us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and Podcast One. Until we see you again, this was Having a Cuppa for the week. See you soon.